Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
What is happening in Minneapolis?
America's on trial.
The death of George Floyd.
The unreasonable force of Mr. George Floyd.
I can't breathe!
The world is watching.
This crisis at the southern border.
It's the Biden border crisis.
Total chaos.
Children are packed together.
I will commit to transparency.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. It is News and Views, and it's Easter week. Can you believe it? It's finally here. The pollen is out, and it's going to be a decent week. A little cooler. Rain coming on Wednesday, but hey, I love this time of year, except for the pollen. Sad story, though, out of Wayne County. Wayne County authorities say the search for that little 5-year-old boy, Braylon Holman. Apparently, they found the body of the 5-year-old in the Neuse River today. The boy and his father, Sterling Holman, have been missing since Wednesday night when the 5-year-old fell off of a Goldsboro boat ramp while fishing with his dad. The father jumped in to save him. The search resumed this morning. And again, the little boy was found. No word on the location of the dad. So unfortunately, as we many had thought, didn't have a happy ending. The press is really drilling down hard now on Joe Biden. Apparently the honeymoon is over. In an earth-shaking Q&A between the president and the mainstream media, a reporter questioned Joe Biden about what he gave up for Lent. I'm not kidding. So, and Joe Biden, he's been in office since January the 21st, right? Apparently, he's gone home to Wilmington, Delaware, I think 7 times, 7 weekends he goes home. Now, you can drive in car from Wilmington, Delaware to Washington, D.C., 3 hours tops. He could take the Marine One helicopter home and get there probably in about 40 minutes. He flies the 747, though, from Washington, D.C. to Wilmington, Delaware. I mean, by the time you get the wheels up, you got to put them back down to land again. So anyway, Joe's coming back from Wilmington, Delaware, Sunday night, and a reporter questioned Cousin Eddie about what he gave up for Lent. Tough question. Biden said, well, I gave up sweets for Lent. And you have no idea how hard it was for me. Then the follow-up question, which was very intense. What's the first sweet you're looking to have when Lent is over? The president said, ice cream. You know, it doesn't get any tougher than that. I mean, this mainstream media, the honeymoon is obviously over. They're going to get serious now with the Q&A with Joe Biden. Unbelievable. Unstinking believable. Did Donald Trump ever have such idiotic questions? I mean, it is an idiotic question with all the things you can be talking about. Tom Tillis, the junior senator from North Carolina, about to be the senior senator, will undergo prostate cancer surgery. Tillis, 60 years old, made the announcement in a written statement earlier today saying that his prognosis is good. Next week, I'll have surgery in North Carolina to treat prostate cancer. I'm in the hands of outstanding medical professionals and expect to make a full recovery, he said. I'm blessed that my cancer was detected relatively early. I can't emphasize enough how important routine screenings are, regardless of how healthy you think you are. I had no symptoms, and I would never have imagined I had cancer. My prognosis is good because I went to my annual physical and received a PSA test, which led to a biopsy and eventually my diagnosis. Early detection can truly save lives, he concluded. Prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in American men, only behind lung cancer, according to the American Cancer Society. Yeah, but, you know, what they say, if you live old enough as a male, now I'm not a doctor, I just what I've heard, chances are you'll have some level of prostate cancer because it's fairly common. But most people, my father-in-law lived to be 96. I think he was probably in his early 70s when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's slow, for the most part, it's very slow growing. But hey, I'm not a doctor. Go get your physical. The News and Observer is reporting a group that opposes Donald Trump. They're dialing up pressure on GOP lawmakers who objected to the certification of the 2020 presidential election results, including first-term North Carolina Representative Madison Cawthorn. The Republican Accountability Project, by the way, there's nothing Republican about this accountability project. They're spending $1 million on a new round of TV and digital ads criticizing 6 GOP members of Congress. The group says encouraged a deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol on January the 6th. In addition to Cawthorn, the ads target Kevin McCarthy, California, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, Matt Gaetz of Florida, Louis Gohmert of Texas, Mo Brooks of Alabama. By the way, Mo Brooks has declared he's going to run for the open U.S. Senate seat in Alabama. I think he's got a good chance of winning. Quite frankly, Madison Cawthorn, as a freshman member of Congress, being mentioned in the same sentence with those others, I would wear this as a badge of honor. Andrew Cuomo. Andrew, stick a fork in him, Cuomo. A 9th woman has stepped forward accusing Cuomo of sexual misconduct. The accuser, 55-year-old Sherry Ville, said Cuomo grabbed her face and kissed her cheeks in front of her home in 2017. Quote, she said, "I know the difference between an innocent gesture and a sexual one." She said this during a press conference earlier today, according to the Democrat and Chronicle. Quote, "I never felt as uncomfortable as I did the day Cuomo came to my house. His actions were very overtly sexual, highly inappropriate, and disrespectful to me and my family. While I was married at the time of the alleged incident, Cuomo visited Ville's home in Greece, New York, to survey flood damage, according to the Wall Street Journal. Ville also provided what appeared to be an image of Cuomo smooching with Ville, or smooching Ville, I should say. I don't think she was responding. That was captured that day in 2017. Cuomo faces a number of sexual harassment allegations, starting with a former aide, Lindsey Bolin, who alleged the governor attempted to kiss her in his office, which he has denied. Cuomo has said he never touched anyone inappropriately, including the woman who apparently he grabbed her bosom. And anyway, I think Cuomo is done. Will he finally just give up and throw in the towel? I don't know that he will. I think he very well might just hang in there and hope these all go away, but doesn't look like it. And granted, it is making news, but can you imagine how this would be the nightly headline, night after night? Not just a mention of it, but I mean, there would be the majority of the evening news in the mainstream media would be featuring this. The majority of the newscasts would be pushing Cuomo to get out of office if he was a conservative Republican. So the news out of Minnesota, Fox News is reporting opening statements were made in the trial of Derek Chauvin, the Minnesota police officer. Just before 9:40 a.m. Central Time, prosecutor Jerry Blackwell began delivering his opening statements before jurors and also people watching via the live stream. The defense attorney, Eric Nelson, delivered his opening statement after that. Quote, "You will learn that on May the 25th, 2020, this police officer portrayed his badge when he used excessive and unreasonable force upon the body of Mr. George Floyd, that he put his knee upon the neck and his back, grinding and crushing him until every breath was extinguished." I think one of the damning witnesses to this police officer is apparently there was a city fire department employee shouting at the police officer to check Floyd's pulse. The prosecutor said that bystander witness would include this first responder who wanted to administer aid, and apparently this police officer pointed mace at her. Investigators interviewed nearly 200 civilian witnesses in the case and over 50 members of the Minneapolis Police Department, including the officers who responded to the scene after Floyd was brought to the hospital. And again, I have no inside knowledge of this, but if this is true, and they can prove that it was true, it's pretty damning evidence that good sense was not used if this is true. Okay, now I realize, before you start calling me, I realize that, he had way over the legal amount of fentanyl in his system. Well, fentanyl's not legal at all, but way over the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. I mean, he shouldn't have been alive to begin with, according to the amount of fentanyl he had in his system. So, I mean, I realize that's part of it, and I'm sure the defense will bring that up clearly. Breitbart is reporting, and now this is really interesting because remember that down in Georgia, there are, well, every Democrat in the nation right now is going bonkers over this new Georgia law that Brian Kemp signed into law in the state of Georgia concerning election integrity. Joe Biden has attacked it. Cher, by the way, did you know that Cher has dyed her hair red? Not looking good these days. I never thought Cher was a knockout to begin with, but she's got to be She's got to be in her 80s with dyed red hair. Not looking too good, but I digress. So Cher I come out and say, oh, no, she got to be older than that. 74? All right. Well, she'll be 75 this year. All right. She still doesn't look good. Joe Biden is attacking this law. Cher is attacking this law, calling, all the Republicans in Georgia, they're just racist bigots. Some of these voter suppression laws in Georgia and other Republican states smack of Jim Crow rearing its ugly head. Once again, it is 160 years since the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments abolished slavery, and Jim Crow still seems to be with us, said Chucky the Clown Schumer during a Wednesday Senate Rules Administration Committee hearing on the For the People Act. What a joke. I say this facetiously. Don't you love the way liberals name their legislation, how they name their activist groups, like Planned Parenthood? The For the People Act, I mean, if we really had truth in advertising, it would be the For the Democratic Party Reelect Me Act. Yeah, you cackling. Elizabeth Warren and the president later echoed Chucky's sentiments. During this first press conference of his presidency Thursday, Biden described the state election integrity efforts as un-American and sick. They concluded that it makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. And I have yet to hear how that comment makes any sense. He later targeted Georgia's election integrity efforts, specifically describing them as un-American. Denying people the right to vote. This is Jim Crow in the 21st century. It must end. We must have a moral and constitutional obligation to act. I mean, this Georgia law is following in the footsteps of the Constitution. It actually, the Georgia law supports the Constitution. I mean, it follows the Constitution. Heritage Action described Biden's attack as misleading. His attacks are not supported by the facts. Georgia's election reforms actually expand voting opportunities, extend early voting hours, reduce wait times in promoting trust in the state's election system. This from the Heritage Action, noting that over 80% of Americans support these common sense measures to protect our election and uphold a fair, transparent voting process. Every voter has the right to trust their vote will be counted. Groups opposing these voter protections are actually sowing mistrust and suppressing Georgia votes. Georgia reforms increase voter confidence and should be the example for every state on how to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. Every state should follow their lead, says Heritage Action. Bingo. There is a new survey out from Honest Elections Projects. Now, again, all these, and by the way, I mean, what Georgia did is basic common sense stuff. Okay, we're not going to allow ballot harvesting. We're not going to allow these unmanned drop boxes. You're going to have voter identification. We're going to cut off counting the votes in a reasonable time frame. You're going to have to prove you are who you are to get an absentee ballot, and you can't get an absentee ballot for just any reason. And again, could we please have some personal responsibility required of the voter? And again, as I said on Friday, the race baiters like Al Sharpton, who come out and say this is Jim Crow, this is racist, you are racist because you are saying that black Americans don't have the wherewithal to do the same thing that white Americans do. How racist is that? In this survey from Honest Elections Project, a majority of registered voters, including a majority of black and Hispanic voters, overwhelmingly support voter ID, a key election integrity measure. This again from Honest Elections Project, their action survey. Jason Sneed, the executive director, sent a memo to members of Congress ahead of Wednesday's Senate Rules Committee hearing on H.R. 1, again, the For the People's Act, which would essentially federalize U.S. elections, stripping states of their ability to implement basic election integrity measures, such as voter ID, by micromanaging the election process. Contrary to the Democratic Party narrative, Sneed's memo reveals that a majority of voters, including a majority of black and Hispanic voters, support basic election integrity measures such as voter ID, which Democrats routinely describe as a form of voter suppression. It's propaganda, folks. It's garbage. 77% of registered voters across the board favor requiring individuals to show an ID before casting a ballot, compared to 15% who oppose the idea. Again, you have IDs for, you cannot live this life without an ID. I mean, if you're in the nut house, okay, yeah, is that caustic? No, I don't think so. If you're in a mental institution, maybe you don't have a voter ID, but everybody else does. If you're an adult out in this world. Notably, a majority of voters who supported Biden in 2020 also backed election ID requirements by a 38-point margin, 62% to 24%. Did you hear that? A majority of voters, this according to the survey, who supported Biden in 2020 back an ID requirement, 62% to 24%. The survey also found that over 3/4 of low-income voters reject the notion of showing an ID is a burden, despite frequent claims from the left. And again, can they come up with something other than racism? No matter what the issue is, if a Republican is for it and they're against it, no matter what the issue is, it's because the Republicans are racist. I mean, if the debate was over whether or not the post office should deliver mail on Fridays, if the Republicans said no, it's because the Republicans are racist. Oh. The act would invert that constitutional structure, commandeer state resources, confuse and muddle election procedure. This is talking about H.R. 1, and erode faith in our elections and systems of governance. This was written in a letter from the Attorney Generals that went out last week. Twice failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is amongst progressives urging the Senate to pass H.R. 1, describing it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Yeah, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the Democrats to basically become an oligarchy, to basically never lose another election. I mean, this is so bad. Why don't they just pass a piece of legislation that says you've got to be a liberal, progressive Democrat to hold office? They might as well just go ahead and pass that. We got to take a timeout. Lots more to talk about. Love to hear from you. 561-8255. We'll be right back.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
29 minutes past the top of the hour. Today is, in honor of Joe Biden, it's National Smoke and Mirrors Day. And then the national holiday for Joe Biden comes up in 3 days. That would be April Fool's Day.
Come on, man.
Joe.
What are we talking about?
You have no idea, do you? Taking a look at your weather forecast for tonight is going to get chilly. We're going to get down into the 30s tonight, low around 39, clear skies. Tomorrow should be nice, sunny with a high near 72. Tomorrow night, a slight chance of showers, low in the upper 50s. Wednesday, showers and thunderstorms possible in the afternoon with a high near 76. And Wednesday night, showers possible and a thunderstorm, low around 46. The outlook for the weekend, lots of sunshine, Cool on Good Friday. High is only going to be around 50 on Good Friday. Saturday, we will be looking at 60 degrees with sunshine. Easter Sunday, 70 degrees with sunshine. So good looking Easter Sunday. Weather brought to you by our friends at the Ironwood Golf and Country Club. Voted best golf course in Greenville 2 years in a row. Ironwood Golf and Country Club boasts an 18-hole Lee Trevino design course, full-service dining and outdoor pool, tennis, and more. And by the way, the golf course is really looking great. All the bunkers have been redone, and the grass is coming in. It is the time to get out there and play. Our newly renovated 15,000-square-foot clubhouse is the perfect place to make new traditions with your family. For a limited time, join Ironwood, pay zero initiation fees. Call 252-752-4653. Find out what makes Ironwood the best of Greenville. 252-752-4653. Be a part of the best Ironwood Golf and Country Club. And again, right now, no initiation fees. The Epic Times is reporting that Baltimore has decided to permanently end prosecution of, quote, low-level crimes like prostitution. This is unbelievable. The city of Baltimore is permanently in, and by the way, it's my old hometown. I don't claim that too much anymore. The city of Baltimore is permanently ending the prosecution of crimes described as low-level and nonviolent, including prostitution and drug possession. Officials late last week said the adoption comes after a one-year period of trying the criminal justice approach, which they say was successful as crimes across the board decreased. Yeah. I mean, this is a joke. They decrease because you said they're no longer crimes. It's not because people change their behavior. Clearly, the data suggests that there is no public safety valve in prosecuting, no public safety value in prosecuting these low-level offensive. Marilyn Mosby, this is the same woman who falsely accused police officers of homicide in the notorious Freddie Gray fiasco. Remember that? Marilyn Mosby, a Democrat who serves as the state attorney for Baltimore, told reporters, again, clearly the data suggests there is no public safety value in prosecuting these low-level offenses. Including in these are trespassing, urinating in public, drug possession, and prostitution. Oh, it's no big deal. If I break into somebody's property, if I trespass in somebody's property, that's no big deal. Since the overall population of prisoners in Baltimore is down 18%, while Baltimore experienced a reduction in crime in many areas, such as 20% drop in violent crime, a 36% decrease in property crime, according to data from the Public Safety and Correctional Services. You know, bragging about lowering the crime rate by saying that crimes are no longer crimes is like these countries that have aborted 100% of babies who might have Down syndrome, saying, hey, look at all the medical advances we've made in our country. We've eliminated Down syndrome. This is unbelievable. Officials say they have seen a spike in some crimes in the city in recent weeks, including 31% increase in violent crimes related to domestic violence. That's since the beginning of this year. Baltimore has also struggled for decades with heightened violence. They've seen 8 shootings in the 24 hours leading to the press conference that declared how wonderful the crime rate is. So, I mean, what's the big deal? Simply, you want to get rid of violence, domestic violence, the crime of domestic violence? Just say it's no longer a crime. Hey, that'll get rid of it. 561-8255. Let's go to the phones. We have Rhonda on the line. Oh, Rhonda's gone. Rhonda.
No, I'm here. Hi.
Hey, Rhonda. How are you, ma'am? Hi, Rhonda.
I'm good. I just wanted to share. People can say it's anecdotal or whatever, but I wanted to share a personal experience. A week ago, I had to go to Southwest Florida for a funeral. When I checked in to my hotel, they asked to see a picture ID, and I thought I'd be a jerk, I guess, and say, well, I don't really have one. Will that make a difference? And the clerk told me, under no circumstance will you be allowed to stay at the Holiday Inn Express if you don't have a picture ID.
Wow.
Okay? Now, I traveled on an airplane. I did have a picture ID, but I just wanted to get a reaction. So I traveled on an airplane, and throughout the airport, there were announcements and placards and all sorts of things telling everybody, you must wear a mask. It has to be an approved mask. It can't be a gaiter. It can't be a scarf. If you don't have one, we'll give you one. Take your mask off, and you will be subject to federal criminal prosecution, and you may never travel by air again. Well, let me go to what's going on right now. It's my understanding that the federal government has booked all sorts of hotel rooms for people who are not citizens of the United States. So I guess they're going to have to show their photo IDs when they check in at the hotel, right? Now,
if it's a Holiday Inn Express, I guess they will.
Well, I guess so. And so now I saw some pictures that I guess were photo ops taken of a 28-year-old, maybe Honduran woman with her 3-year-old son who are traveling on an airplane to your favorite place, Baltimore. And they were doing photo ops with a little boy looking out the window with no mask on, and they were sitting in airports with their masks off. Now, I'm feeling a little bit discriminated against.
Big time. I hear you.
So I just thought I would share that with you because the hypocrisy is over the top.
It is over the top, and it is totally infuriating. And listen, right now, the CDC came out today and said how, we think there's a fourth wave of COVID coming. You better get ready to lock down. And, of course, Anthony Fauci came out today and said how children, when they're playing together, they need to wear their masks, even small little toddlers, which, I mean, again, Duke and Carolina both came out with this study saying, you know, there's no transmission between kids to kids or kids to adults. But Anthony Fauci says the kids, if they're out there playing, they need to wear their masks. Although
I think COVID will be over the day after the 2022 November election. So cheer up.
Well,
we're approaching the finish.
I tell you what, it's so frustrating. And listen, the bottom line is, and there's another doctor out of Johns Hopkins today. In fact, we talked about this a little bit last week. Marty Markley came out and said, listen, herd immunity is going to be here by the end of April, and it's going to be a done deal. And this guy's a pretty sharp, you know, he's a pretty sharp guy.
Well, I wouldn't question Johns Hopkins and Anthony Fauci can't hold a candle to any of the doctors there, in my opinion. And the bottom line is, I'm not wearing a mask for measles, mumps, and rubella. I took a smallpox vaccination as a child. I don't have a mask for whooping cough or tetanus or any of these other things. So give it up, folks.
Well, I think the reason why they are wanting to come out and say, you know, they're not done yet, and they want to, and the CDC's coming, oh, we got to have a fourth wave, is I really think they are pushing hard. Everybody's got to have the vaccination. And listen, again, I've said this over and over again. I've got doctor friends who said they're not going to get it, and they think, okay, it might stop COVID now, but what is it going to do to you 12 years from now? That's the big question. Now,
well, I took the Johnson & Johnson because it is based on adenovirus 26,
right,
which is kind of the traditional way of making viruses. But I refuse to take the RNA vaccine.
Well, and listen, I don't have any argument people want to take it. I mean, that's their decision. But when the government comes out and begins to force, and by the way, Rutgers University came out today and said, students, if you want to come back to campus next year, you've got to have the virus. I mean, you've got to have the vaccine. Well, now here's the thing. What if you have had the virus? There is no proof that having the virus is any less of an immunity from COVID than getting the vaccine. To me, if you can prove that, yeah, I've had it, shouldn't that count as well as having the vaccine? I think it should. Hey, Rhonda, good to hear from you. We got to take a time out. Stay with us. News and Views. We'll be right back.
Yes, sir. I'll get right to the point.
Constant radical left propaganda.
I myself get sick of it.
And social injustice wokeness.
I really don't understand why these corporations feel like they need to submit to woke culture.
Be thankful that there's one place conservative values.
All we want is freedom and liberties and less government.
They're still valued.
But it's not just on an American scale.
I'm talking about the fight for our freedom.
Conservatism is being attacked everywhere.
News and Views with Tom and Benny on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. 17 minutes before the top of the hour. You know, that's the other thing that's so irritating about this administration is, you know, they want to scare the bejubies out of you in terms of COVID, and yet the Biden administration is just, come on in, illegal immigrants. You got COVID? We don't care. Come on in. We're not going to test you. Just come on in. And I mean, have you seen the pictures over the weekend? Did you see the Ted Cruz went down to the border and he started to take pictures of these people crammed together on top, literally on top of one another. And, you know, there's a certain percentage of them that have been, they know are positive for COVID, and they're just all jammed in there together. And a young lady working for the Biden administration gets right in front of Ted Cruz, who's videotaping with his iPhone, and says, please do not, you know, don't embarrass these people. You know, don't denigrate these people. Don't do this to these poor people. It's like, wait, I'm just recording what you were doing to these poor people. 561-8255. Who we got? Craig. Welcome in.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me on here. I'll make it brief because I know you're pushed for time. But I've had COVID and I've had the vaccine, and I still have to wear a mask, and that makes no sense whatsoever. And I don't understand it. But if you think the masks are bad now, wait till the summer rolls around. You got that big cloth thing over your face when it's 95 degrees.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do go a lot of places though, and where supposedly you're supposed to be wearing masks. I'm noting that more and more people are saying no, I don't think so. And again, you know what? Here's the thing: if it's a private enterprise, and they've got a sign on the door that said you're not allowed to come in here unless you're wearing a red shirt, I'll say, well, okay, I'll either put a red shirt on or I won't go in. But because that's a private enterprise, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, if they say, if you want to come into my private enterprise, my store, whatever, you got to wear a mask, I'm saying, okay, I've got a choice. I don't have to go in and I don't have to wear a mask, or I can go in and I can wear a mask. So that part doesn't bother me. But when the government comes out and mandates that you have to do it, and and Biden came out today and said, I'm really encouraging governors to make sure that their states it's mandated that you wear a mask. That's gone too far.
Well, I work for Uncle Sam, so they're making us wear masks in the office.
There you go. So I hear you. Thanks, Greg. 561-8255. Louis, is it? Hey, Louis.
Hey, bud. Look, I'm calling about this Equality Act, the H.R. 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody knows what this is about. The transgender, it's supposed to be the transgender bill.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
I want everybody to know and realize that this bill is targeting our children starting in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Bringing this stuff into the kindergarten classes, and the way that they're doing it is they're taking out the Dr. Seuss books, they're bringing in transgender ideology books that teach our kids that they might not be in the body that they're supposed to be into, which in reality will pull our kids away from God, telling them that God don't know what he's doing.
Well, it does that, and it also will give basically all kinds of civil rights based upon your sexual preference, not upon your nationality, your race, or your religious beliefs. But if you're a transgender, you cannot be discriminated against any more than you could discriminate against somebody because of their race. And
that's the whole thing. The whole thing is they already got
absolutely
civil liberty rights protected. So that's why this bill didn't make no sense. But when you look at it and see that it's targeting our children, and that's what the whole plan is. Like I said, they're taking this stuff into the kindergarten classes to teach your kid, and then the way they got it is at 4 years old, they're going to start giving them social transitioning, which is going to start in the kindergarten classes. Okay, if your child decides that they ain't in the body that they think they're supposed to be in, well, they'll start your child on that social transitioning, and then at 9 years old, they got them set for puberty blockers. At 14 years old, they're going to give them sex hormone treatments. And by 18 years old, they want to have the sex change. They want your child to have the sex change. And they're taking the parental decision rights out of it by letting the child make the decision of what they want to do with their lives. And certain courts have took people's parental rights away because they
you're Louis, you're right, and it's even worse in other countries. Up in Canada, it's really bad, and then there are courts in Canada that have told. There's one story where the court up there told the father, "You have no say-so in how we're going to treat." I think it was the daughter that thought she was a little boy. And this is a minor. This is like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old child, and the court she wants to have the testosterone shots, and who knows what kind of mutilation surgery she'll want to have. But you're right, and it's coming. And by the way, there's a story I was looking for in my pile of stories. I don't see it, but Nickelodeon is rebooting a series that is aimed at 2- and 3-year-olds. And this series will feature, now it's not going to be so blatant as they're going to come out and say things like, okay, you don't know you're a little girl, you don't know you're a little boy, but it's going to have a lot of subtle suggestions towards that end. I mean, they'll have the gay pride flag up there. They'll have a transgender flag up there. They'll, it'll be a little bunny rabbit that says, I don't know if I'm a little boy or a little girl bunny rabbit. I mean, it's parents. What Louis said, he's absolutely right. You got to watch what your kids watch like a hawk. The days of turning on Nickelodeon and letting your kids watch Gilligan's Island, it's long gone. It's long gone. 561-825. I tell you, we got to take that other time out. We'll get back to your phone call. I think it's Dwayne or Wayne on the line. Wayne, we'll get to your call. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To the show that really makes you think.
He is a genius.
He's all powerful.
He brought a kind of heat.
He could be the best. Just don't hurt yourself, okay? More news and views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
So as the immigration mess at the southern border gets more and more out of hand, Kamala Harris remains silent. In fact, they can't find her. There is actually some people in the media that's saying, where's Waldo? I mean, where's Kamala? Will you go to the border? Here's what she had to say.
Do you plan to visit the border? Not today.
Yep. This cackling. 561-8255. Let's go to Wayne. Hey, Wayne, thanks for waiting.
Hey, brother. Got a question. Where is all these kids and all these people going to the bathroom?
You know, I don't know if you saw any of the stories over the weekend, and I don't want to make it gross or demeaning for the people that are in there, but apparently the sanitation gets grade Z minus, and it stinks to high heaven. And anywhere they can find is the answer, Wayne. It is sad. It is inhumane. And what Joe Biden is doing and he's doing it under the banner of, look how kind we are to these people. This is the most unkind thing in the world. And, and right now, the situation is, if you want to get in, you've got to be accompanied by a child. I think the age is 8 and under or 6 and under. And so what are they doing? They're kidnapping children. And they're bringing them up and say, oh, yeah, this is my child. I mean, this whole thing and the corruption with the coyotes, the incidents of sexual assault on these kids, it's through the roof. And the poor kids are being victimized, and yet Cousin Eddie and Kamala and Nancy and Chuckles the Clown Schumer are all strutting around like how wonderful we are. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. They're sick. I mean, Joe wants to call the things that the Republicans are trying to do that are constitutional sick. These people are sick. And they do it all. They do it all for their own benefit. They're doing it all so they'll. What they think is, first of all, they want chaos so they can redo the system, and then secondly, they're thinking they're going to vote for us because we'll offer them all kinds of free goodies. Vote for us, and we'll give you free things. Hey, we got to run. Pray for our country. It's in trouble. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, all right, all right.